just to say that I am like a Nintendo fan and that this movie is made for me in quotes. Yes, I did know that Mario could turn into a cat. He could turn into a cat for at least a decade now. I feel like that's like the bar at this point, especially with the Grace Randolph video that's been going viral. So yes, I did know that Mario could turn into a cat. Ooh, okay. We've got some lofty expectations with the Mario movie here. I've been personally excited for this since the day that it was like announced to be in development, and I will say again, there's some pretty big expectations for this movie. This is technically the first Nintendo movie, or at least it's the first Nintendo movie that we want to care about. Second of all, this is coming from Illumination Studios. They are not really consistent when it comes to their animated movies, but they do have a couple of bangers. They've got the first two Despicable Me movies. They've got Sing, which I guess that's like an unpopular opinion. I really love Sing, but other than that, none of their other movies have really ever done anything for me. So I'm a little worried about that. Third off, of course, when they first announced the cast for this movie, the entire internet essentially collectively laughed at the announcement that Chris Pratt was voicing Mario, which seems like the weak link out of pretty much the entire cast. I'll get to that later though, because that's a bit of a firestorm there. So yeah, this has a lot going against it. Of course, even with all of the video game movies and shows, there's not really that stigmatization anymore of video game adaptations in the movies or shows being bad anymore. We have the first two Sonic movies. We just had The Last of Us that ended like last month. And later this year was just announced we're finally getting that Five Nights at Freddy's movie. That's more of a hope that that's good, but hey, I'm excited for it. So yeah, the Super Mario Brothers movie is out. It is making so much money. It's essentially printing money at this point, and yeah, I think it's fantastic. It stuck the landing on the man. I really do feel like that if this movie was bad, I would have been like severely depressed if this was bad. And also, I just gotta say, uh, you really gotta point out that like, at least for me, are the critics like drinking goofy juice or something? What the hell's going on here? This is like the most I've disagreed with a Rotten Tomatoes score in a very long time. It's genuinely shocking. First off, the animation itself is pretty gorgeous. I've seen, maybe save for one of them, I've seen all of Illumination's movies. I think from an animation perspective, this is their best animated movie. This looks gorgeous. There's so much detail put into the Mushroom Kingdom and the Donkey Kong Land and like the Bowser's floating castle. It looks amazing. It's all that. And even when they're in Brooklyn for like a little bit, they're not in Brooklyn too much. But even in there, it is just fantastic. It looks incredible. The story itself, I mean, it's Mario. Like, would you ever play a Mario game for the story? Just that's just me personally. Apparently, out of the reviews I've seen, the story is getting the most criticism. But again, it's Mario. It's a very simple story here. I'm not going to a Mario movie or playing a Mario game for the story. So I can forgive that. The comedy in this as well, it is very much directed towards a younger audience, but I really do feel like this is just like fun for all ages. I think the comedy in this honestly lands a lot of the time. There are a couple of things that really just didn't really make me laugh or just a little chuckle, but throughout most of this, I was having a pretty fun time. I also got to point out Brian Tyler's musical score for this, because it works in like this orchestral, all this orchestral stuff, some Italian instruments as well. work and also working in Koji Kondo's original music for the games, and it is fantastic. It's also on top of that, since Nintendo is very weird with their music for their games. This score is fully available on streaming. So technically, this is the first time ever we're officially having Nintendo music on streaming. So that's a huge win. And now we got to get to the voice acting, because this was the one thing I was concerned about. I think the trailer for this looked spectacular, but we're going to talk about the things that I thought were going to be good and were good. I'm going to point out the biggest highlights for this, because honestly, I think the voice acting across the board was pretty strong for the most part. I did like Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach, although it really felt like her voice just doing Peach. And the same goes for Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, but I liked the characterization of Donkey Kong in this as this like dude bro kind of guy, and he was a bit of a jock, and I love that they did that with Donkey Kong, and Seth Rogen's voice fit that. I also really love Charlie Day as Luigi. I think out of all the casting announcement that they did during that Nintendo Direct, that was the one I went, yes, that's perfect. And they nailed it. I really do think they nailed it. And especially since Charlie Day has already talked about multiple times about wanting to do like a Luigi's Mansion thing, like a movie, I think that would be perfect and just let him do it at this point. But I do think the strongest voice actor in this was Jack Black. And honestly, how is that not going to be the case at this point? Because Jack Black as Bowser is a damn near perfect pick. Like again with everyone, it felt like they just had so much fun making this, and like all their hearts were in it. That was the biggest part about this. Even though like part of me had reservations of like, oh, it being a celebrity voice cast and all that, it really do seem like they wanted to put their all into this, and a lot of them seemed like they were trying here, and I really respect that, especially Jack Black, who is honestly unrecognizable, and the same thing goes for Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. And now we got to get to Chris Pratt, because that was the one thing I was really concerned about this movie, because I don't have anything against Chris Pratt. I think he did a good job voice wise for the Lego movie. I think he's very charismatic as Star Lord, but I don't know, something it was gonna be anybody voice, not Charles Martinet voicing Mario, who does get a pretty wonderful cameo in this movie. But Chris Pratt, honestly, is pretty good in this. It feels like that perfect balance of not too cartoonish Mario voice, which they use in it as a joke, but it's mainly just walking this fine line of kind of cartoonish but still realistic. And honestly, Chris Pratt did a good job of that. And that was really only my biggest concern with this going into it, and he was pretty good. I will say, though, there is one negative thing for me, which honestly is more of like a personal thing with me, and it's that there's a lot of like 80s music in this and licensed music, and I just wanted to hear more of Brian Tyler's score. That was really only the thing. That was the only thing that I thought was bad about the movie. And that's like music choice. So it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of the movie. And now I guess what does this mean for the future of Nintendo movies? Like what does that mean if like the partnership with Illumination and Universal and all this stuff going on? This has been printing money already. Pretty sure there's gonna be a sequel announced. But the I'm pretty sure this means that not only we're probably going to get more like Nintendo IP movies, but also on top of that, just they're most likely going to be made by Illumination at this point. And before seeing this movie, I was a little skeptical on that because seeing this kind of movie with The Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Kirby, Metroid, all of this stuff, it was a little weird. But now, after seeing the results of the Mario movie, I wouldn't even really mind Illumination making all this stuff. Because, granted, that could be a huge workload. And if they do end up having to go to certain uh, different studios to make these movies, I wouldn't mind that. Honestly, for like a wish list thing, I would love to see like a Metroid animated movie. I think that would be really cool. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of like The Legend of Zelda, I would love to see Illumination do an animated film for that with like the Wind Waker style animation. I think that would be cool as hell. But just I think the future's looking pretty bright for video game movies in general, and I'm really happy that uh the Mario movie was one of them. So yeah, the Super Mario Brothers movie is some of the most fun I've had in a theater in a long time. I really hope this partnership continues with Illumination and Nintendo. I really do feel like they have a lot coming our way, whether it's for a sequel to this or other Nintendo franchise movies. And just, I'm really glad this didn't suck. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Just flat out 9 out of 10. I'm gonna watch it again, maybe even in theaters, because this was such a breeze as well. Alright, that's my thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie. Honestly, one of my favorite movies of the year so far. This is my question for you today. What is a Nintendo franchise that you want to see be made into a movie? Doesn't have to be animated or anything like that. What's one you want to see on the big screen? That's my question for you. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video. See ya.